welcome, and thank you very much. We are very excited to be partnering with Lithuania today and bringing you this outstanding program to talk about all the outstanding opportunities and benefits of expanding your operations, ETA member companies' operations into Lithuania. I have been working with the great team here for many months now, and they consistently demonstrate not just technical expertise, but a level of professionalism and personalism that makes Lithuania an attractive investment for any company, but especially for ETA member companies who are leading the development in the fintech space. So I'm looking forward to today's great program. It's going to be an exciting one. And again, welcome everybody. And now let me turn it back over to you guys to get on with the program. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Scott. So now I would like to ask Marcus Micheli, who is a Deputy Chief of Mission at the U.S. Embassy in Vilnius, Lithuania, to also say a word.
Thank you so much, and hello to everybody. I'm standing in now for Ambassador Gilchrist, who's on leave. So as you mentioned, I'm the Deputy Chief of Mission here. I'll just say very quickly a couple of words about the overall relationship we have with Lithuania, which is a fantastic one. Lithuania is a fantastic all-around partner for the United States. We're allies in NATO. As I'm sure you all know, we have excellent relationship across all levels, governmental, business, people-to-people levels. Really, it's based on shared history, shared interests, and shared values. So on the economic front, since it joined the EU, the Eurozone, and the OECD, Lithuania has developed into a really very dynamic economy. And there are a lot of opportunities here for US businesses to expand into Europe and then beyond. And we've seen, I've been here since 2018, and even in my short time here, I've seen a lot of US companies come to Lithuania, look around, and then establish themselves, and then actually expand once they find how good the situation is here. Just a couple of factoids. Lithuania ranks 11th globally and 3rd in Europe in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business report. And I think that shows you it's a very good business environment here. Lithuania is strategically situated. It's on the crossroads in Europe and Eurasia. It's got a diversified economy, EU rules and norms, very great advanced IT infrastructure, really impressive. And we've all experienced that. I've been very grateful of this as I've been teleworking for the most of the last year with the pandemic. Anyway, low inflation, really well-educated, multilingual workforce. I think something like 85% of young professionals here speak English. Many speak English better than I do, and I'm a native speaker, so it's really impressive. Stable government, democratic government that's a great partner, and it's a great place to live. I can attest to that, and I'm going to be very sorry to leave when we actually leave. Very welcoming for foreign entrepreneurs. It's established, I think, very forward-leaning policies and initiatives. Very strong innovation economy and environment, I would say, particularly science, technology, research, very supportive. And we see this trend only accelerating with sort of tech and green focused economic recovery efforts after COVID-19. So you'll hear in more detail, the government and the Bank of Lithuania have made a fintech-friendly environment a priority. And there are initiatives like this newcomer program, a sandbox regime, AML, Center of Excellence. And so it's for all those reasons that Lithuania is home to really some of the fastest growing, or one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing fintech sector in the EU. And that includes a really very high number of fintech licenses issued in the EU as well. So it's a very vibrant community here, and that presents, I think, a really great opportunity for both Lithuanian and American entrepreneurs and businesses. It fosters innovation and growth in both of our economies. So we see it as really a win-win here. So thank you all for participating, and I would encourage you to connect with our in-country resources. For instance, we can help you through the process here at our embassy, but of course, through Invest Lithuania, Enterprise Lithuania, Work Lithuania, and the American Chamber of Commerce, of course. So I'd just like to thank the organizers, also the Lithuanian Embassy in Washington, and the US Electronic Transactions Association. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you, and we are here to help. Thanks.
Thank you, Marcus, for these kind words. I was sitting there and kind of almost blushing. I think Lithuanians are quite modest people, so it was very nice to hear all these words about us, Lithuanians, and Lithuania overall, and of course our fintech hub that we've been working on. So next, I would like to ask our team lead at Invest Lithuania, Gintarė Bačiulienė, to present and talk and tell you more about how to leverage Lithuania's ICT talent pool and that fintech-friendly ecosystem that Marcus has just described you. So Gintarė, please.
Thank you, Jurgila, and thank you, Marcus, for such a warm welcome. Indeed, I think there will be some repetition with my slides, but it's the more we can tell about how great the place is, I hope that the more companies can find the hidden gem that we are. So my name is Gintarė, as Jurgila mentioned. I am head of technology team at Invest Lithuania. And first of all, for those who don't know much about Invest Lithuania, I will tell briefly who we are, what we do, and how we help. I will also expand a little bit more on the key facts about Lithuania, focusing on the talent pool and the fintech hub, which, the key facts that set out Lithuania apart from other countries in the region and indeed globally. So starting off with short introduction, Invest Lithuania is a governmental agency with the remit of promoting Lithuania's business environment and assisting global companies to explore new business opportunities in Lithuania. And fintech indeed is one of our priority sectors. That's why we have a team of dedicated fintech advisors, Ieva and Jurgila, who are also on this webinar today. And we focus helping companies expanding their footprint, reaching out to the EU market. And we also look at the broader picture, try to identify opportunities for Lithuania as a jurisdiction to develop further and facilitate relevant changes in the business environment. So Lithuania and its capital, Vilnius, is roughly where the green dot on the map is. As you can see, it is in a great time zone for the US companies that want their international teams to follow the sun. Speaking of the business environment, several facts to highlight. Maybe I'll just start with this. Is what Marcus has already mentioned, that Lithuania is proudly 11th globally and 3rd in the EU for ease of doing business, as ranked by the World Bank. It is politically stable. That's ranked 6th in the OECD for tax competitiveness. And not of least importance is the fact that Lithuania is ranked 20th for the quality of life globally. And I'm sure locals as well as expats living here attest to that. When you get to know a country, it's not just about facts and figures. So I chose those 3 pictures to represent sports, heritage, and outside activities that are all very important to Lithuanians. So first of all, of course, the sports. We're very proud of Lithuanian high achievers, such as NBA basketball players. You might recognize if you follow that sport. So Elder Sabonis plays for Portland Trail Blazers, and his son is currently playing with Indiana Pacers. Lithuania also has rich historical and cultural heritage, and one of the culinary delights pictured here is the cold beetroot soup, and we hope that you will have a chance to try it once you visit. And another fun fact, if you ever visit Vilnius, you have a chance for a unique flight over the old town, which is possible in only a few places around the world. So again, if you come over, let us know and we'll organize it for you. Of course, in addition to being a lovely country, Lithuania offers great benefits for businesses that are after value for money when choosing location for expanding their operations. The graph on the left combines ease of doing business ranking with the average hourly labor costs across the EU. The numbers are indicative, but they do paint a convincing picture. Lithuania is in the sweet spot in the top right corner, offering business environment which matches Denmark, Sweden, and the UK, while the average labor costs are still lower than most of the EU with a few exceptions. The graph on the right of the slide shows the wage growth in technology centers in Lithuania, and it has plateaued around 6% for IT roles. So even though the wages are increasing annually, their growth is not going through the roof. I'm confident to say that one of the Lithuania's greatest strengths is educated and driven talent. And we have almost 40,000 ICT specialists. And specifically in the fintech sector, we have an estimated 4,000 employees, with the headcount projected to grow continuously from now on. Also, as Marcus already mentioned, we're blessed to have our own language, but we're very keen on learning other languages because Lithuanian is of little use outside of Lithuania. So we start learning languages at an early age, and as a result, over half of the population speaks at least 2 foreign languages, and 85 young professionals are fluent in English, with Russian, German, and Scandinavian languages being its most popular second foreign language choices. So as you can imagine, it's a great asset for international companies that want to hire multilingual talent here. Another interesting fact is that Lithuania ranks first in the EU for employment of women, which make up 50% of total labor force. And what's more, 57% of scientists and engineers are women too, which again is a leading proportions across the EU. We see really good numbers of those are represented in fintech and tech sectors as well. Lithuania has one of the most educated talent in Europe, with 56% of adult population having higher education. And higher education in IT is very popular and gaining additional popularity, of course, due to amazing job opportunities that the new companies in Lithuania are creating. So currently we have around 10,000 students in IT-related studies, and additional 2,500 junior developers retrained by private academies annually. I would also like to mention that it's not just our internal talent pool, but we are also looking to expand it by various programs dedicated to bring talent from abroad, both Lithuanian diaspora and also non-Lithuanians. And we estimate that due to relocation from non-EU countries, which is fueled by some of the recent events, our IT talent pool should expand by at least 1,000 IT specialists in just 1 year. So let's talk about Lithuania's fintech hub and how it continues to grow. For the second year in a row, Lithuania has been recognized as one of the key fintech hubs globally after the United States, the UK, and Singapore. So really good companions, I must say, for Lithuania to look up to. And despite being a turbulent and challenging year, fintech sector in Lithuania grew by 10% in number of companies. So 40 new companies joined, while some others fell off the radar. And now we count 230 companies in our ecosystem. Lithuania is now the largest fintech hub in the EU by the number of fintech licenses issued. We counted them at the end of 2020, and combining all licenses, payment institutions, electronic money institutions, and special purpose bank. Those licenses are fully passportable across the European economic area, and it means that companies can access 500 million potential customers in 32 countries from their hub in Lithuania. So another interesting survey that we did also at the end of the year was asking fintech companies that are already present here why they chose Lithuania for their operations. And fintech-friendly regulation and infrastructure were named as one of the most important factors, as well as Lithuania's ability to adapt to business needs and provide the environment where fintechs can flourish. It is then followed by the talent pool availability, and namely a slightly less saturated market for hiring software engineers, although we know it is they are in hot demand everywhere. Compliance and operations talent. Personal relations also play an important role, and we are delighted to see that professional connections and references from the companies that are already in Lithuania help attract more and more new companies to our ecosystem. Finally, target client market is an important factor as well. And despite Lithuania being a small country, it provides a great market for new participants to successfully test and launch the products. It's much easier for them to access the customers, and they also benefit from the growing fintech hub by forging partnerships with other companies in the sector. One of the key drivers of such rapid and successful growth for fintech in Lithuania is, of course, innovative and progressive regulator Bank of Lithuania. So you will hear from Marius Jurgilas, board member at the Bank of Lithuania, in a couple of minutes. So I will not steal his thunder. Just want to mention several things that Bank of Lithuania implemented that spurred that growth of fintech in Lithuania. So first of all, which was key, formulation and adoption of the fintech strategy at the government level. Then it switched, the bank switched this working language to English and launched the newcomers program where companies can consult dedicated teams of specialists throughout the whole process of application. We also witnessed the bank to streamline the licensing procedures through distributing resources and push for digitalization. So now it takes only 6 to 9 months to get a license in Lithuania. And for all of that effort, Bank of Lithuania has been several times recognized globally for the level of its innovation, and recently presented with a Global Impact Award for from the central banking community. But why take my word? Here is a selection of companies that have made their due diligence, their research, and decided to set up in Lithuania. So I'm sure that you will recognize some of the global brands, some high growth companies and unicorns, as well as some smaller ambitious scale-ups. So we work hard to add more US brand names and companies on the slide. So watch this space. And if you have any questions or would like to explore business opportunities in Lithuania, or even if you're not sure if it is the best fit for your company, please get in touch with our team and we'll do the best to advise you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gintarė. So as I mentioned previously, this presentation will be available after the webinar. We'll make it sure that you receive a copy of it. And I would like now to ask Marius Jurgilas, board member at the Bank of Lithuania, to take the floor and talk about building an innovation-conducive environment, Lithuania's fintech experience. Welcome, Marius.
Hi, everyone. Jurgila, I did not intended to share the slides, but I don't think I will disrupt the flow if I share a couple. I just thought it would put a bit of a more interactive mode to Teams framework. Can you confirm that you can see what?
Of course.
Right. So
yes.
Good morning, US. Good evening, Europe. So first of all, a bit of an introduction. My name, as was announced, is Marius Jurgilas. I'm a board member at the Bank of Lithuania, and I thought that I should give you a bit of an introduction of what Bank of Lithuania is. For our American friends, it probably can be summarized as we are a bit of a Fed, a bit of the OCC, a bit of the DOJ, and probably I'll stop here without going into much more detail, meaning we are the monetary policy authority. We are providing the payments and settlement infrastructure as well locally, as well for the Eurosystem. We are a Eurosystem member. We issue notes and coins. We act as a macroprudential supervisor, so we are the ones who are setting additional capital buffers for our supervised entities. I already mentioned supervision, so we are also the supervisory authority. And that also explains why we are central to the initiative that Gintarė just said, because we are the gatekeepers to the ecosystem in Lithuania, besides also managing our own foreign reserves. In terms of the ecosystem, you see 4 figures: electronic money institutions, payment institutions. SPB stands for Special Purpose Banks, which is a light form banking license, which is basically a bank stripped away from all the complicated issues like derivatives trading or asset management, so kind of transaction banking license. And P2P and crowdfunding are crowdfunding and peer-to-peer platform operators that are operating in Lithuania and providing services across European Union. Now, why fintech? The obvious answer is, of course, because Jamie Dimon said that fintech is here to stay, and that is the biggest threat to the banking industry. And I'm almost not joking, because for Lithuania, fintech is primarily about boosting competition. And on the right side of the slide, you see a stylized composition of our financial system with the blue color dominating, which is the banking system. And only recently we have this greenish area eating into the blue pie chart. But if you look on the right side and you look at the composition of the blue one, you even will see why the strategy is very much important for the Bank of Lithuania, is because our banking system is very much concentrated with a couple known numbers actually almost representing all the banking system. So SEB, Swedbank, and couple Lithuanian domestic market players is all we have. And foreign branches, which are not even domiciled in Lithuania, have 27% of the market share. So as a supervisor, as a regulator, we're used to dealing with non-resident in that sense, non-resident service providers providing services across borders in Lithuania. Obviously, they have branches established here. Now, how exactly did we facilitate this initiative and strategy, which is not led by Bank of Lithuania, which is not led by Invest Lithuania? It's been adopted by the government of Lithuania and implemented by us as agency and supervisor. This is how we did it. We identified the main bottlenecks and enablers that would enable new entrants, new business models to disrupt the status quo of a very concentrated financial system that we have, and to leverage one key benefit or one key distinguishing feature that we as back then wannabe fintech hub wanted to implement, which and the leveraging factor being the ability of a regulated firm in Lithuania to provide services not only in Lithuania but across European Union with 450 million potential customers. And that is the first element, which is the newcomers program already mentioned by Gintarė, which is a dedicated team in the supervisory unit of the Bank of Lithuania, which is basically holding the hand of an applicant who is new into the ecosystem, who might not be accustomed to the regulatory intricacies of European Union, or might need a bit of a guidance in adjusting the business model that is, really flying very fluently in US, but is not really compatible with the US understanding of how financial services should be provided. So that's newcomers program. We also are embracing innovation in two particular initiatives. The one being regulatory sandbox. Bank Lithuania was probably the first one in the European Union as a supervisor to implement regulatory sandbox. Now any self-respecting supervisor across the world has one, and now the next level actually is to enable those fintech companies who want to test an innovation across the jurisdictions, and we even provide that feasibility because we're members of a global financial innovators network, which is being led by the Bank of England. And we just accepted one company which will be testing regulatory submission, kind of a RegTech solution. If the company is from Poland, services will be tested in Lithuania and will be tested with market participants from GCC countries, US, Singapore, and Europe at the same time. So that's what the regulatory sandbox is. It's for testing innovative solutions, which are not obviously fitting in the regulatory perimeter. So that's almost like a legal issues, ensuring that consumer protection is in check and things like that. LB Chain, which is a blockchain-based sandbox, it's our technological offering, which is saying that if you are in the area of distributed finance, or you want to challenge the usually intermediated way of financial system, and you want to venture into the distributed way of providing services or, I don't know, doing custody, Bank Lithuania is ready for that. We have a platform by the name of LB Chain, which is inviting you to test together with us in our domestically housed blockchain-based platform, any solution that you're willing to engage in. And our technologists, our supervisory team will be again going with you through the testing, and if we succeed and you succeed in your business model, we take it to the next level, which is the usual market. RegTech and SupTech is our offering to incumbent market players because we treat everyone equally, and as Jamie Dimon was saying, fintech is here to stay, so everyone needs to adapt, including the incumbent banks, and we are thinking of ways how to reduce regulatory burden at the same time that we're increasing it. I mean, we must admit that issues like sustainability and ESG disclosure requirements, which will be kicking in at the end of this year for majority of the big market players, is almost like the next AML cost line on your balance sheet. So we also kind of stepping out of our ivory tower and trying to provide a playground, if I can say that. How can we reduce the burden of adapting to very fast changing regulatory requirements? And one of the ideas already in the development for a year is maybe we can interconnect reporting and core banking system of supervised entities in a way that we can source the regulatory submissions ourselves. If we change something, the onus is on us to adapt it at the back end because the data is still the same. The transactional data that supervised entities have to report to us. And then I'll switch gears to Centralink. Probably that is the main enabler that enabled Lithuania to become number 4 in the world in terms of attracting points for fintechs. And in this case, fintech is a non-banking institution. For some of you participating on the call, it's obviously known that not every central bank is allowing non-banks to interconnect with the settlement system directly. And that's sometimes a pain in the neck or even an entry barrier. And that was identified for us as the main entry barrier, given only a few banks operating in the region. So if we wanted a vibrant new community of challenger banks or challenger fintechs to appear, we needed to provide a socket. And that socket is Centralink. And as of today, actually, it is a designated Eurosystem access point into the Euro settlement system through Bank of Lithuania. These developments and new businesses entering the region also created a burden on us as an institution. And we also thought of a way how we can share that burden with the private sector, with other institutions as well. And we have been looking for ways to manage the burden of managing the risk of new market players. And that's how the AML Center idea came into the existence. And that is initiative between the Ministry of Finance, our FIU, Bank of Lithuania, and the Bankers Association, which is a jointly established anti-money laundering center, which will be the competence center and the place of shared investigations, without going into much more detail, which has been identified as the best practice by FATF. Usually institutions like FIU, supervisors, banks themselves, unable to share very sensitive consumer data, but actually sharing the data is the thing that allows us to catch illicit activity and to reduce anti-money laundering risks. And it's not stopping here. It's always something is changing, and on the horizon there are changes as well, and we are adapting. And the view that we have at the Bank of Lithuania is we always are trying to hit the target in terms of shaping our ecosystem in such a way that it is future-proof. What does that mean in simple words? Lithuania, Bank of Lithuania, is part of a bigger ecosystem, which I already mentioned, which is the Eurozone. Banks are operating in the banking union. We are building capital market here, but at the same time, Europe is building capital markets union. We have our own position on crypto assets, but here we have already the draft of the European position on market in crypto assets. So when I say trying to hit the target, we are massaging our market players in such a way that we believe Europe will be having them in 3 years. So that then by the time we are mature, they can scale across Europe, given the pan-European regulatory framework. So that's our approach, and that's how we facilitate fintech in Lithuania. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Marius. I'm sure everybody on the call enjoyed your talk and found it very interesting and useful. So thank you very much for joining. So now you all heard quite a lot of information about Lithuania, but we always believe that the best way to find out about it is to hear from somebody's own experience. And that's why we today invited Chris Lybeer, who is the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at Revel Systems, to have this little Q&A session with us. So Revel Systems has been in Lithuania for about 6 years and now have more than 200 employees. So Chris, maybe you can just give a short intro about your company, and then we'll just go to some questions that I prepared. But I also encourage all the ones on this call, if you have some questions, just feel free to post them on the conversation or just raise the virtual hand and we'll give it floor to you. So Chris, welcome.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jurgilas. Appreciate it. We're thrilled to be here and thrilled to be a part of this. And we're thrilled to be in Lithuania for 6 years now. We're going to have to start counting and having anniversaries pretty soon, I think. So, Revel, by the way, is a company of about 500 people, about $100 million SaaS-based software business that provides technology platforms to restaurants and retailers all over the globe. We have tens of thousands of customers, have been in business. We actually just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. So we went into Lithuania, as we were getting to about the 5-year mark And really what brought us there, the company was founded in San Francisco, and the majority of the employees at that time were in San Francisco. And as the company was increasing quickly in size, we were looking for more diversity in talent, in cost, in skills. And it was actually a little bit accidental. We did not do a ranking of a bunch of opportunities and choose Lithuania. One of our founders actually knew somebody. We kind of worked our way in there, and we liked what we saw. And so we started small. We started with a couple of dozen people, and here we are 6 years later with 10 times that many folks, and thrilled with what we're doing there.
All right, thank you very much. So you have offices in US, UK, and some other countries. Could you describe what distinguishes Lithuanian office among them all? And are there any activities or projects that are especially done there in Vilnius and Lithuania?
Yeah. So we do have several offices and a few large ones. Lithuania being one of the very large ones. And the thing that stands out in Lithuania, there are multiple functions there. We can cover that in later questions. But Lithuania is really our primary, and for the most part, 100% running our support function. So because we're supporting, really sort of smaller businesses, restaurants, and retailers, and we're supporting large chains, but each one of them is its own business. Our technology is mission critical to them running their operation. And so if there is a glitch, they need it dealt with right away. Otherwise, they might not be able to serve their customers. They might have to close their doors, or might be in difficult strait. So we need to be able to help them immediately. And so, when we went into Lithuania, the goal was to start having, as you mentioned earlier in the call, kind of a follow around the world support type operation. It went so well in Lithuania that we eventually stopped doing around the world, and we have Lithuania supporting our global customers around the entire globe 24/7 out of Lithuania. So Lithuania is our support function, and they do a fabulous job. And interestingly, I think there's a side effect of that has also really helped us, which is often, if for those of you familiar with running a large help desk or support function, you need kind of layers of support. Your first level folks who can triage the easiest problems, and then the next level to handle the harder stuff, and then the tier 3 that are the real diggers and super techies. And we've been able to hire folks often who are still going to school to be part of our help desk at the first layer, even potentially working part-time. So it's good for them and it's good for us. And we can work also flexible hours because we need people all the time, and they've got their schedules. And then as they move out of school, they can graduate into further levels in our company, even eventually out of support into R&D and into other functions. So it's really been sort of a great feeder system. And I can't say that we designed it all that way to start, but it works out extremely well for us.
That's great to hear. And could you maybe comment a bit further on the qualities and skills you focused when building the team in Lithuania? And in your opinion, are there some strengths of Lithuanian employees that you can see and you compare with other offices?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, the whole fintech idea is important, and we are looking for technical skills and technical competencies in the vast majority of our jobs. I mean, we do have some operations jobs and things that are kind of just general business skills, but more than 90% of the jobs require knowledge of technology. So that is a very core thing. As was talked about earlier, the fact that so many folks are comfortable with English and also can track around the world and support people, primarily in English, but potentially in secondary languages. That is convenient. And, at the end of the day, there's also an element that's important, and I personally have done outsourcing to other countries in at least 4 or 5 other countries in the world over the last 30 years. And we find that there's also a cultural dynamic around just hard workers and people who are willing to be part of a team that's really important. We don't feel like we've got a bunch of just individuals. We don't find it particularly difficult to manage. And there are some other places in the world where you can go find technical talent, but the management of that talent is quite difficult. And we've been pleasantly surprised at just how easily, everybody fits into our business, and that's great.
That's good to hear. At the same time, you answered my kind of next question that I had in mind, was like how Lithuanians fit into overall culture in the company. So I'm glad to hear that everything worked out so well. And could you share maybe with us if there are some success stories or some achievements at Revel Systems that you're proud of, that probably you reached it together with Lithuanian office at Revel Systems?
Yeah, so I already mentioned one, which was huge, which we started out with, thinking of it as an adjunct, support function, and it eventually became our primary support function. So that was a huge win. And then what's happened, as a result of that is we've actually gotten to the next level. So we started out doing just a little bit of R&D there. I mean, a very small, just a couple of projects. But over time, with more and more people in support graduating from school, wanting to do more, and with our own experience and ability to collaborate with everybody in Lithuania, we have now built a significant R&D function there. And it's really allowed us as a company to move faster, because there's always, wherever you're located, whether it's San Francisco or Atlanta or London, there's resources are hard to come by. And the more capable teams you can get, running to advance your products, the better. So it's been really awesome for us to have another office with reliable management, with a collaborative workforce, where we can also do R&D projects. So we are advancing our product faster than ever, and it's contributing to the success of our business.
Yeah, and your office, as well as you mentioned, you added some new functions, but it keeps expanding. Like we keep coming for office opening parties. So what is the major driving force? Of course, overall, Revel Systems is doing great, but also you found the talent that you needed in Lithuania. What other major forces behind that?
Yeah. Well, right. That's you're right. We keep needing more office space, which that's a good thing. And I think what's happening is this dynamic of start with support, then R&D projects, now more in R&D projects, and then we actually started moving some of our operations functions, kind of just our administrative processing functions, from the United States to over there, and to have them in dual places. And so that's another growing area. So I think what we're finding, just area by area in the company, is that we don't have to think about Lithuania. And I think often when people think about outsourcing, development or whatever, or a help desk, they think about it's just that function, and we're just going to kind of contain it and treat it like it's just this black box over there. And we probably started out that way as well, but we don't think of it that way anymore. We think of it as, we're a company that's got an org chart, and we're a global company, and we think of the resources that are available to us, are available across all of our major offices, including Lithuania, and we consider them as capable of doing any of our functions, at any point in time. And, we can balance ourselves, and it's really good, especially in the new global economy, to not be dependent on everybody in one office, in one time zone, in one location. And so Lithuania has really provided us the ability to expand our company in all functions, over there. And so I think that if we were only still just thinking of it as the black box for support, it might still be growing, but much less so. But we're thinking of it really as just one of our primary. We have really 3 large offices, and it's one of our 3 large offices, and it is going to continue to grow as the company grows, across the board as far as functions go.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. I'm sure the employees as well are quite happy there, because they are part of the global team. So also, you were one of the first international fintechs that actually settled in Lithuania those 6 or 7 years ago. Like, how has Lithuanian, from your perspective, how has Lithuanian business environment changed in those years, if it did at all? Like, do you see some, I don't know, change in our ecosystem or economic environment?
Yeah. Well, it was good to start, but back to the prior talk and just I think the country as a whole has been incredibly proactive, and again, across the world in other countries, that is not always the case. Sometimes the government is more of a, gets in the way more than they're helpful. And I have to say, whether it's Invest Lithuania or kind of across the board, people have reached out to us whenever we're over there. Our executives interact, with different folks in the governmental community, and it only gets, and I would argue it's only gotten easier to do business there. So often it's the case that you might find a good situation with the people themselves, but the environment you're in can be a little bit of a sticky wicket. And we honestly haven't really seen any sticky wickets. In fact, we keep people having people like yourselves raise their hands and saying, "How can we help you?" Which is awesome. So I think that's been really good. In the talent pool, I think we have had some nervousness around so many companies coming in, and then would there be a talent crunch there, just like everywhere else? Well, as was said earlier, talent's a bit of a crunch everywhere, including Lithuania, but I think the energy behind the economy there, the number of folks going to school and being ready to become part of the fintech community, it has been awesome. And so we have been able to continue to grow without it being too big of a strain. So I think it's become, I would say 6 years ago, we were, it was a much smaller community, and the community has definitely gotten richer. But that should, net be good for everybody who's there.
Yeah. All right. So one maybe last question from me, and then I encourage all the listeners as well. Think of some questions, not necessarily also for Chris. Maybe have questions for previous speakers, and then provide them in the chat or just raise the hand. So also, Chris, what would you advise to other companies that are entering in Lithuania? Because you went through this journey with Revel Systems. Are there some tips and tricks or some do's and don'ts that you could share?
Yeah, well, I think whenever you're doing something this significant, I mean, this is always a big leap to take. So, I think you start slowly, you always crawl, walk, run, right? And kind of work in phases. But what I would say is, do not think of it as a black box type of event. Don't think, oh, there's this function, it costs us too much, we're going to move it over there so it costs us less. But we're kind of going to we're going to otherwise ignore them. We're not going to treat them as part of the company, as part of the culture, as part of, how do we win in our market and everything. We're just going to have them do X. They're going to turn this crank, whatever that crank is. I would highly encourage you not to think that way. We think of all of our employees in Lithuania as equal to our employees everywhere else. They are a part of our strategy. They are a part of our culture, and we collaborate with them, equally within the company. So I don't think, you're going to get your best value if you just want a low-cost operation here that's a black box type of thing. I think there's a lot of talented people there, and I think they want to be a part of the company that they're in. They don't want to just be, a cog. So they want to be a player in their company. And we've got a great culture there, and that culture is part of the culture we want for our whole global company. So that would be the main thing I would say, is probably think a little bit bigger than you might first be thinking about outsourcing, which so many people, it's just about saving money and how can we get that done cheaper and just have them ship whatever work they do somewhere else. I think that's you're undershooting what you can get from this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Chris, for sharing your experience and your tips, with other listeners of this call. Really appreciate it, and we are very happy to have you in Lithuania. Always happy to come for a visit to your office, because you have an amazing one. So thank you a lot. Thank you very much. And so I see that nobody have posted any questions, but maybe somebody has some questions. So because we are not that many participants, feel free to turn on your speaker and ask a question if you have any. Okay, so I guess no more questions then. So, well, thank you very much then to all of you who participated and booked this time in your schedules for today. So we really appreciate it and hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. So as mentioned previously, you know, the presentation that we shared today, we will send you that after the call. We'll make sure that the recording of the meeting as well is available after. And, you know, if you have any questions about Lithuania, about generally maybe Europe, this region, we are very happy to connect with you and provide you our support. So in a few minutes, you will see a slide with a QR code, as I mentioned, where you can just scan it and find our contact details. So feel free to connect. And thank you very much for all of you that have taken part. So yeah, so here's the slides that we talked about. So feel free to scan it and contact us. And thank you very much again for taking part.